Hello, it's Pattyjo, bad hair day, but I just thought I'd come down here and do some making fun of Darrell. Okay, let's just dive right into making fun of Darrell, because...
Have you read or seen any complaint?
No.
No further questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down.
Paper folder.
Detective Rowe should be dismissed, please. And yes, could we get the exhibit?
Yeah, why don't you grab that exhibit and
Yeah,
take it?
that was the end of what we saw last time. I just wanted
That
to
one has the exhibit sticker, correct?
slam into the folder.
All right, we can keep it by the state for now, and then later on it can be brought over to the clerk. All right, the state may call its next witness.
Another officer to prove that he stomped through WAUKESHA. Oh my god, he's getting worse and worse now because he's less and less in control and he sees it. Narcissists are only happy when they're in
Sir, if you would
control.
please make your way to the witness stand. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in. Do we need this easel up? No. All right. We're going to have...
Yeah, or Detective Ragland can retrieve it.
Yes,
She's got
that'd be
it.
great. Thank you. All right, thank you, sir. Please remain standing. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and then spell each.
Ryan Schultz, RyanSchultz.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you.
Sir, how were you employed?
I work for the Wisconsin State Patrol.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been in law enforcement since 2014.
Have all those years been with the Wisconsin State Patrol?
Yes.
What is your current position?
My current position is the mechanical inspector for the Wisconsin State Patrol Technical Reconstruction Unit.
Can you describe the duties of that position?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
My job basically is to conduct thorough and systematic inspections of vehicles that have been involved in crashes. That can entail something as simple as taking photographs and looking at light bulbs to something more in depth, where I actually take the vehicles apart and actually look at the moving parts of the vehicles.
Did you receive any training in order to perform those duties?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
Can you briefly describe that training for the jury?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
A lot of the training that I received was on the job from prior inspectors. Prior to this, I was a diesel mechanic, and in addition to that, I have ASE and SAE certifications.
And having any interest in cars, what are those certifications?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
SAE is for the electrical components in a car, basically, for the part that I am certified in. ASE is for the mechanical components, which stands for the Automotive Service Excellence, is what I believe it stands for.
What is the purpose of a mechanical inspection?
The purpose of a mechanical inspection is to determine if there was anything that was incorrect, defective, or broken on a vehicle prior to the crash that would have caused the vehicle itself to cause or contribute to the crash.
On December 6, 2021, were you directed to go to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab to view a vehicle?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer. It's foundational. Go ahead.
Yes.
What information did you have prior to going to that location?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
The information that I was given is that I was to set up an appointment there to look at a Ford Escape that had been involved in a crash in the parade in WAUKESHA.
Did you go to that location on that date?
Yes, I did.
Did you do a mechanical inspection of the vehicle that you were sent to look at?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, I did.
After performing your inspection, did you draft a report?
Yes, I did.
And did that report contain the findings of your mechanical inspection from December 6th?
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes.
I provided to you, prior to you going up on the stand, what's been marked as State's Exhibit 83. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
Can you briefly identify it for how it's labeled, how many pages it consists of?
What exhibit is that?
Exhibit 83.
It's the crash reconstruction mechanical inspection report.
The whole report is exhibit 83?
Correct.
Yes.
The whole report?
Go ahead.
Jesus.
I haven't ruled on it yet, so go ahead and ask your questions, Attorney Daisy.
Sir, how many pages does this report consist of?
10.
And that is front and back sides?
Correct.
Objection.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
And on the face sheet of Exhibit 83, what information does it contain on that as it relates to this investigation?
At the top, it contains case number and recon number, which match my name, the reconstructionist, and then it begins the report and vehicle identification information, and then on the bottom, it's marked with exhibit number 83.
What car were you inspecting?
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
2010 Ford Escape.
And what color was it?
Objection leading.
Overruled, you may answer.
Red.
And the license plate number associated with that vehicle?
A. Adam, D. David, P. Paul, 9256.
And on the report, the vehicle identification number on Exhibit 83, where did that information come from?
The vehicle identification number I verify on the inside of the door jamb of the vehicle. There's two VINs on each vehicle. One's a public VIN under the windshield, and one is inside the door jamb of the vehicle. I always use the one inside the door jamb of the vehicle first, take note of it, and then cross-reference it with the public VIN on the vehicle to make sure that they both match.
And did they in this case?
Objection. I have the 10 pages, and nowhere on here does it say it's an exhibit. Nowhere.
That's because it was marked for purposes of trial. It has an exhibit sticker now. So your objection's noted. It's overruled.
First of all, cut your fingernails, Darrell. Cut your fingernails. Trim. This one's trimmed, and these are ready for you know what to go you know where. Okay? Secondly, you have objected to almost every question without any basis. And thirdly, now you're objecting when it's not an objection. Does it hit a dicker on it? He is just narcissist tornado today. Like, this is exhausting.
And the
Why am I
witness,
not privy to the same?
Why am I not
the
privy?
witness may
Privy.
answer the question.
It's not a word. It's a, maybe they put it in the dictionary now because so many people use it. Yeah, they put words in the dictionary now just because people use them, not because they're actual literally words. They're just privy. They put EVOO because Rachel Ray said it so many times and it became a catchphrase. Oh my gosh.
It's been marked as an exhibit. Go ahead, sir.
Can you restate the question? I forgot what it was.
I think I did too, but let's go with this one. Is the
That was
VIN
his
number
goal.
that you saw on the door, you said that you cross-referenced it with the VIN number, public VIN number. Did you do that in this case?
Yes.
And did they match?
Yes.
Does it give a drivetrain description on that first page or front page?
Yes, it does.
And first of all, I don't know what that means, but what is that?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
That's
The
not
witness may
leading.
answer.
Drivetrain description describes the drive of the vehicle, basically how it's operated on the roadway. So in this case, it's an automatic transmission, doesn't have a clutch, you don't have to shift the gears, and it's front wheel drive, meaning that it's not all wheel drive or rear wheel drive like a pickup truck, it's just front wheel drive.
And is there a picture on the front of Exhibit 83?
Yes.
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer. Just a reminder to wait until I've ruled on any objection. Thank you.
Yes.
And what is that picture of?
It's a picture of the 2010 Escape.
That you did the mechanical inspection on?
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes,
Have you authored this report?
I did.
Have you had a chance to review it since you've authored it?
Yes.
Is the information contained within this report accurate?
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes, it is.
I would move State's Exhibit 83 into evidence.
Objection.
Your objections noted. It is overruled. Exhibit 83 is received.
So is my paperwork ever gonna say Exhibit 83, or is it just gonna be this?
Mr. Brooks, I'll take that up outside the presence of the jury later, but we're going to continue.
It
Go
was brought
ahead.
up in front of the jury.
Mr. Brooks, we're going to continue with the questioning of this witness.
What is y'all trying to pull here?
Mr. Brooks, please.
This is ridiculous.
No one's,
No,
the,
please, nothing.
the exhibit, to my understanding, has previously been provided to you. You have it. It's now been marked as an exhibit for trial
Y'all got
purposes.
something I don't have though.
Go ahead.
That's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be fair.
Attorney Basie, I trust that this was previously turned over.
It was, and I believe the defendant has a copy of it in front of him.
Thank
And
you.
where does
Please
it say
continue.
Exhibit 83? It doesn't say that this was going to
Again,
be
we'll take
used
this
as
up
an
outside the
exhibit.
presence of the jury later. It's not something we need to do right now. Go ahead, ask your questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I would object and move to strike from the record any commentary that the defendant was making in the last 5 minutes.
Jesus.
What was that?
Court will strike the commentary that was made. I'm not sure if it was picked up or not, but as a reminder to the jurors, the statements made by parties and lawyers are not evidence. The testimony and other evidence that's received is the evidence the jury will ultimately consider. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, can you briefly describe the condition of the vehicle when you inspected it on December 6th?
Yeah, the vehicle had quite a bit of front end damage. The bumper cover was pushed back, the grille was pushed back into the engine bay and into the radiator. That was also pushed backwards in towards the engine. The hood was folded up in the air. Both lights were broken out of the front. There was quite a bit of debris and unknown things stuck to the exterior of the vehicle, and there was also some damage to the sides of the vehicle.
Do you know why you had to go to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab in order to do the inspection?
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
I was requested to go to the state crime lab to do the inspection because they had not yet completed DNA sampling, so until they had it finished, it was going to be retained inside the crime lab. So in the interest of not moving the vehicle again, once they were done with DNA, they had me come to the crime lab to do the testing and inspection.
So the first section of your report, and I'm just going to direct your attention to page 3 of Exhibit 83, talks about the tires and the
Why do they have her doing this? She's
suspension
struggling.
and tie rods. Do you see that?
I feel so bad for her. I would not know some of this stuff too. I mean, I would know some of it because in the fire department you learn some things, some minor things, but because literally some of the things we drive around are shamefully in poor condition. Like literally, I one time I need to stop saying that today. I one time was driving an old medic back to the place where they repaired them, and the homeless people were laughing at me because it was blowing so much smoke, and it was chugging like the little engine that could. It was horrible. But she is struggling. Why don't they have somebody who knows more? She's dipping her head. She don't know either. She's just struggling.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
She has to leave. She don't
And
know
can
what
you
it means.
describe for the jury what part of the inspection, describe this
Bless
part of
her.
the inspection.
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer. The report's been received by the court, and the state may direct the witness to various points at its discretion.
When was it made an exhibit? Because I wasn't aware of that.
Go ahead, Attorney Basie. You may continue.
Thank you. Sir, can you describe the information contained in the first section of the report under the heading tires, wheels, steering, suspension, brakes?
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
So under this section, it's broken down into 4 parts. One for axle 1 left, which is the driver's side front axle. The left side would refer to it as you're sitting in the vehicle facing forward. The right side would refer to the passenger side. So axle 1 is the frontmost axle. Axle 2 is the rearmost, left and right, and it breaks each individual wheel end component systems down. And then from that, I take each one apart and inspect them thoroughly: brakes, tires, steering components on the front axle, obviously, suspension condition, and anything else that's at the wheel end that I can inspect.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes.
What observations did you make?
First, on axle 1 left, which would be the driver's side front, the tie rod end was worn. About 1/8 of an inch of play in the tie rod end in the ball joint itself. So when you turn the steering wheel or turn the wheel, there was a little bit of play in the tie rod. Still attached, still intact, still functioning, still able to steer the vehicle, but just worn to the point that it needed replacement before it got any worse.
Was that something that would create any problems in operating the car, for example, on November 21st, 2021?
Objection speculative.
Overruled, this witness may answer. Hold on, he's been qualified under 907-02. I direct your attention to 907-02 through 907-07, Mr. Brooks. Go ahead.
I don't consent to being called that name, and that's referring to a specific date. How do we know that's not speculation?
The objection's noted, it's overruled, the witness may answer.
It would not. The vehicle would still steer and drive just the same as any other vehicle. It would just have play in the steering wheel, and it would make a little bit of a clunking noise potentially when you turn the wheel. You would maybe hear a clunking noise from that left front tie rod.
Again, operationally, the person driving that car would have any trouble steering based upon that issue?
Not at all.
Okay. What other observations did you make?
Other observations I made were that all the tires were evenly worn on all 4 axle ends. I believe it was the left rear, the left rear axle, the tire on that axle was bigger than the other 3. So there's also a chart referenced later in my report that shows the difference between the 2. The tires that are recommended to be on the vehicle are size 235/70 R16, which was what was equipped on the vehicle, except on the left rear, which was 245/75 R16, which is 1 full size bigger in dimension and aspect ratio.
What, if any, impact would that have on how a person's ability to drive that vehicle?
Nothing.
So 1 size bigger in tire is usually not the end of the world, being that it's the single tire. It can have an effect, but it's on the rear of the vehicle. Being a front wheel drive vehicle, the speeds are reported off of the front axle of that vehicle. So that's where the speedometer would get its speeds from. The only time it would be notable would be during a heavy ABS brake application. and that would be at a higher rate of speed with full brake application where the ABS system kicks in on the vehicle. That's where it could be noticeable, and by could be, I mean the sizes are very similar. They're about 1.5 inches in difference. Revolutions per mile are not that far apart. The ABS system might not even pick up a difference between the two.
When you say at higher speeds, are we talking, what are we talking?
Higher
Objection leading.
Overrule, the witness may answer.
Higher speeds, I mean something like highway speeds, 55 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour or greater.
Any other observations made with regard to in that area?
The only other observations that I made were that all the brakes were in good working condition and had adequate thickness left on the brake pads for stopping of the vehicle. All 4 brakes were in good working shape and they were able to be locked at the time of inspection.
So, and let me clarify if I didn't ask you this. The information you were provided was that this vehicle was involved in a crash?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled, given the nature of the testimony being provided. The state may clarify that. So go ahead, you may answer.
Yes.
And do you know the date of that crash?
I know it was in November. I don't know the exact date.
Okay, thank you. So with regards to the braking system, was there anything, did you find anything at all in your inspection of that vehicle that would have caused the brakes not to work or not to work effectively on the date of the crash or prior to the crash?
Objection speculative.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
No, I did not.
Actually, since your inspection took place after the crash, would that
Hold on. I'm recording. Let me pause it for you. Pause it. Okay, sorry about that. Let's go back like a tiny bit. Okay, let's see.
The vehicle. Being a front-wheel drive vehicle, the speeds are reported off of the front axle of that vehicle. So that's where the speedometer would get its speeds from.
I backed it up a little because I got
The only
interrupted.
time it would be notable
Sorry.
would be during a heavy ABS brake application. And that would be at a higher rate of speed with full brake application where the ABS system kicks in on the vehicle. That's where it could be noticeable. And by
Oh,
could
the
be,
tire,
I mean
the tire
the
change.
sizes
Okay,
are very
good. So I
similar.
backed
They're
it up.
about 1.5 inches in difference. Revolutions per mile are not that far apart. The ABS system might not even pick up a difference between the two.
when you say at higher speeds, are we talking, what are we talking?
Higher,
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
higher speeds, I mean something like highway speeds, 55 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour or greater.
Any other observations made with regard to in that area?
The only other observations that I made were that all the brakes were in good working condition and had adequate thickness left on the brake pads for stopping of the vehicle. All 4 brakes were in good working shape and they were able to be locked at the time of inspection.
So, and let me clarify if I didn't ask you this. The information you were provided was that this vehicle was involved in a crash?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled, given the nature of the
Look at his
testimony being
face.
provided.
Look at that stupid look. Okay, this guy is giving complicated testimony. I mean, I'm not following every single thing unless I go back and redo it. And this is why when I got interrupted, I went back a little bit further. You are such a turd. I cannot believe that you asked and answered.
The state may clarify that. So go ahead, you may answer.
Yes.
And do you know the date of that crash?
I know it was in November. I don't know the exact date.
Okay, thank you. So with regards to the braking system, was there anything, did you find anything at all in your inspection of that vehicle that would have caused the brakes not to work or not to work effectively on?
Do you hear him mumbling under his breath?
the date of the crash, or prior to the crash?
Objection speculative.
Speculative.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
No, I did not.
Actually, since your inspection took place after the crash, would that be your same answer with regard
Same
to,
about
as
place.
it was on December 6, 2021, there were no brake problems?
Objection speculative.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
That is correct. The brakes still functioned at the time of inspection fully.
What was the next area that you then inspected?
The next area that I inspected was the electronic system and general cabin system of the vehicle, cabin being where the occupants sit inside of the vehicle. I did that by examining light bulbs on the exterior of the vehicle and then systematically working my way into the vehicle where I could.
What observations did you make in that area?
Both headlights were, the lenses were damaged, but the lights were still working. The lights were in the high beam position and in the automatic position from the driver's cabin.
What does that indicate?
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
So that indicates that when the vehicle was left at the last time, that the vehicle headlights were in the automatic position, meaning that if it's dark enough out, that the headlights would turn themselves on, and the selector stick was in the high beam position, meaning that the last time the lights were in use, they were in high beam mode.
I can't wait till he lobs onto that and spins that, because he doesn't call them high beams. He calls them high beebs. High beebs. High beebs.
Thank you.
High beebs.
From there,
Dummy.
just examine the throttle linkage, horn, and the other driver controls from inside the cabin.
So let's talk about the throttle controls. First of all, what is that?
So
Leading.
everyone's,
Objection.
Leading. What is that? It's not
Overruled, The
leading.
witness may answer.
Ugh.
everyone's familiar with the throttle pedal in the vehicle. You press the pedal, and it makes the vehicle accelerate. From there, on this specific vehicle, it's an electronic signal that is transferred from the throttle pedal to the throttle body on the vehicle's engine on the intake. That electrical signal opens a butterfly valve, which allows more air and fuel into the engine, speeds the engine up. If you let off the throttle, it reduces and closes that valve. On this particular vehicle, I checked the throttle pedal first inside the cab. It was free moving, no binding, no obstructions. I was able to smoothly press it to the floor and release it, and it acted just as it should. From there, I went under the hood of the vehicle. On this particular vehicle, the crime lab asked that I did not open the hood just because of the amount of DNA evidence on the front of the vehicle. They didn't want me to come in contact with anything, so they asked that I not open the hood if at all possible, which on this vehicle, I was able to still access the throttle because of the way the hood was bent up in the air. I was able to actually reach in from the side of the vehicle and access the throttle body components through the damaged hood portion where I normally would not have been able to reach. From there, I was able to look at the exterior of the throttle, and everything was in clean, clear working condition, no visible damage, no visible issues. I removed the intake tubing from the engine and inspected the actual throttle plate itself, which was in the closed position. Closed position indicates either an idle or that the vehicle is turned off. I was able to then actuate the butterfly valve itself from fully closed to fully open, and when I released it, it went back to fully closed just as designed by Ford.
Did there appear to be any problems with the throttle?
No, there was not.
I know you call it a throttle, I call it a gas pedal. It's one and the same, correct?
Objection leading.
Sustained as to the form of the question. Please rephrase.
What is the difference between a gas pedal and a throttle?
Nothing.
Thank you. What was your next?
See, and that's just one more example of how Darrell thought he was being so smart. Any other attorney would have let that question go. It is not material at all in any kind of making it him look more guilty to define the fact that a mechanic or a mechanical inspector is going to call it a throttle And a lay person or anybody driving a car is going to call it the gas pedal or the accelerator or something more common. It's kind of like the difference between calling it an SUV and a car or a vehicle. We all have the normal things we call it. Ugh. And he thought he was being so smart. Somebody else said that. Like, I should go through comments. Go through comments. I'm confused by this guy anyway. He's smarter than me.
The next area I went on to was the seat belts inside the vehicle. And then from there, I actually was able to test the vehicle for function.
Did you then come to a conclusion section of your report?
I did.
And is that starting on page 5 of 10?
Yes.
Okay. Did you check the power steering system?
I did.
And what observations did you make of that?
Aside from the ball joint that was loose that I described earlier, the entire rest of the power steering system was intact and functioning properly.
So there are no problems that would cause the car not to steer appropriately?
Objection, leading.
Sustained is to the form of question. Please rephrase.
Did you observe any problems with regard to the steering?
Aside from the ball joint, no.
Thank you. Now, in your report, you indicate a gross vehicle weight rating. Do you see that on page 5 of 10?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes, I do.
What is that?
The gross vehicle weight rating is the amount of weight that the vehicle can physically carry safely, and that number is administered by the manufacturer.
So that includes people within that car? Is that what you're saying?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer based upon his training and experience.
Yes, that would include all the vehicle weight, occupants, and cargo.
And the curb weight, what is that? I mean, generally, what is it now?
Objection, leading.
I'm going to interrupt because I love this comment. Thank you so much for saying that. JC fan only. Okay, I love your comments. Thank you for saying that. Don't stop. My family lived in the high mountains of Colorado. I lived in Colorado, not so high, only about 7,000 feet. For 40 years, we would come across accidents and there's no one around and always in a state of panic as to what to do. Your comments, your knowledge really helps. Thank you. Thank you. I think, and I'm going to say just this, the most important thing is anything you do is helpful, okay? Don't think that you're going to hurt somebody. Life over limb, and just do the best you can. If you think you should move them out of the car, move them out of the car. If you don't think you should move them, you think they're safe and warm in there until somebody can get there, that's fine too. You know, just because we wouldn't give them water doesn't mean you can't give them a little bit of water. I mean, I always thought, take them as I get to them. If somebody has moved them, I'm not going to criticize the people around who tried to help. Any paramedic who doesn't have confidence in their own abilities, because this is what I used to tell students, and it's a bad word, so forgive me. I can unfuck anything you do. That's what I was here to do. I can unmess up all of your mess ups. That's my expertise. Moving on.
Overruled. The witness may answer based upon his training and experience.
The curb weight of the vehicle is the weight of the vehicle as it rolls off the floor at the assembly plant. And that's without fuel and coolant and oil and things like that. And it's a dry weight of the vehicle. It's what the vehicle itself, with nothing in it, physically weighs.
Thank you. if someone had reported hearing a clicking sound while this car was driving in front of them, was there anything that you found in your report that would be consistent with a clicking sound being heard?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
There was a lot of damage to the front of the vehicle. It would be impossible to say what a clicking noise could come from, being as there's a lot of moving components under the hood with the belt pulley, the engine fan, things like that. Anything could be stuck in a tire. It would be impossible to say if there would be a clicking noise from this vehicle. I was actually not able to drive it physically to test it. I was only able to just start it.
Can I ask why you were unable to drive it?
Objection, relevancy.
Because it's a wrecked piece of garbage now. Okay, go.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
There's actually two reasons I was unable to drive it. One, again, with DNA evidence on the exterior of the vehicle. Two, there wasn't enough gas in the vehicle to move it.
That was a bummer. I thought he was going to say something like it was just too wrecked. And what he was saying was he didn't want to disrupt the DNA of the folks that this guy ran over. They're on his vehicle. Oh, God. So much proof of your guilt, Darrell. There's so much there. And then the other thing was when Darrell ran it out of gas. He pulled into that gas station and did that whole, remember that whole shenanigans with the guy where he was going down the wrong way and then pulled it, and he didn't even bother to fill up the tank. What a numbskull.
So the car was on empty when
Oh my God.
you observed it?
Stupid.
Objection, leading.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
How much gas was in the car when you inspected it?
Objection, leading. Asked and answered.
Asked and
The
answered.
witness may answer.
There was, the gauge read E for empty, and the notation on the infotainment center originally said 2 miles to empty, and then on the second key cycle it said 1 mile to empty.
When you said key cycle, when you started it, or when you turned the key, what observations, if any, did you make?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
So when I tried to start the vehicle, it was very sluggish. It turned over, but it wouldn't fire, it wouldn't do anything. And then it made like a hiccup sound, like it was going to try to start, mimicking basically a vehicle that's out of fuel. And when I tried turning the key again, then the vehicle actually did start, did idle, and did run like it was supposed to. That's when I saw that the fuel gauge, the distance to empty gauge, went from 2 miles to 1 mile, indicating that the vehicle was very much so out of fuel almost. And I recorded this with my camera, and I tapped the throttle to do a rev test on the engine. The engine revved and went back to an idle. When it went back to an idle the second time, it then sputtered and turned off.
That's all very complicated. Here, I wanna go over to this comment because it's a good question. Okay, this is Allie 1433. I am confused because he did have long hair. They were very long dreads. So what is the confusion with his line of questioning? And I'm thinking you're going back to the line of questioning between the way he altered his looks and things like that. Okay, from what I know of what I learned, now that I have a biracial granddaughter and I've learned so much more that I thought I knew that I didn't know. Like about protective hairstyles and elective hairstyles and whether the hair is their hair or married hair or not their hair at all. I don't know how long his actual hair was, but I doubt that his actual hair was all the way down. He would have had to been growing that for decades to be down as far as those locks were. Actually, and a lock is basically a twist of the very, very curly, tight curls into something that, you know, pulls it into like almost a protective style. I'm guessing. I am guessing on that one. But people don't understand who don't have to do that to their hair. So I'm thinking that leads to confusion. Certainly does on my part, and I certainly did not appreciate some of the requirements until I started actually washing and combing the curls on my granddaughter. And so I have learned so much more about what is required and sort of the reasons why choices are made. There we go. So I hope that clears up my confusion, which is plentiful.
Which would indicate what?
It's going to be more plentiful with this guy.
Indicate that it's not getting
Woo.
enough fuel to run correctly.
Thank you. Now, if a witness had testified that when the vehicle went in front of them, they heard a high-pitched, like a revving sound, based upon your examination, what would that be consistent with?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
There's a lot of different things that could cause that. It could be heavy acceleration from someone pressing the throttle on a vehicle. It could be noise that is amplified because the engine bay is now open to the exterior, so you can hear the engine noises coming from the engine bay of the vehicle. It could be an exhaust-related item. It could be a lot of different things, to be honest.
When you were doing an examination of the undercarriage of the vehicle, did you observe a muffler?
No, I did not.
I want to show you what's been previously admitted, Exhibit 73. It'll show on the screen in front of you, and I'd ask that be published as well.
Objection!
Objection, leading.
Overruled. Permission to publish 73.
Sir, do you see the picture that's marked Exhibit 73? It's not actually marked, but it is Exhibit 73.
I do.
What is
that? Well, that's the muffler, probably off of his vehicle, and these are what he ran over those folks like fire pit or whatever, and these are the seats they put out there.
depicted in that photograph?
Objection.
Objection!
Speculative.
Speculative!
Overruled based on his training and experience. The witness may answer.
That it appears to be an exhaust muffler and a couple chunks of wood and overturned dirt.
The muffler that's observed in this picture, would that be consistent or inconsistent with a 2010 Ford Escape?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled. This witness may answer and provide an opinion. Go ahead.
By just looking at a picture.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
That's...
You can cross-examine.
Y'all
the
think
witness
y'all
about
slick.
something. Go
Got
ahead.
to. Y'all trying to pull it fast.
Yeah, pull the fast one.
It is a vehicle muffler. Without seeing the ends of it and where the inlet, outlet are, and actual measurements, it would be impossible to see what vehicle it came from, but it is an automotive muffler.
And sir, at the end of your inspection, do you come to a conclusion with regard to the mechanical fitness of this vehicle?
I do.
And what was that conclusion?
My conclusion was that the tie rod on the left front end of the vehicle that's responsible for steering, the joint was worn and had been worn prior to the crash. This is not something that just happens immediately or overnight. If it would have been due to crash damage that this was damaged, I would expect to have seen a lot more impact in that area with bent metal or distorted items. The tie rods are very tough parts, so that to me indicates that it was worn prior to the crash occurring, and the tire, obviously unless somebody changed it in between the crash occurring and my inspection, the tire was a different size than the other three prior to the crash, and it had been driven like that. I did not see any issues from the tie rod affecting steering as far as it relates to the alignment of the vehicle. Once things are worn and they start to get excessively worn, they manifest themselves in incorrect tire wear. Tire might chop or feather. That was not present on this vehicle. Had the left rear tire been an issue on the vehicle, I would have expected to see that manifest itself in an ABS, which is an anti-lock brake system failure or a trouble code in the vehicle. When I ran the vehicle and with the key in the ignition in the on position, there were no diagnostic trouble codes present on this vehicle indicating any issue whatsoever.
And two things that I guess I need to cover. Do you check to see if there are any recalls of a vehicle in coming to your conclusion?
Objection, speculative, and do we still need this exhibit?
Oh, thank you. We can take that down, and your objection's noted. It's overruled. The witness may answer.
I do check for recalls, yes.
Were there any on this vehicle?
There were not recalls on this vehicle. There was only an extended service warranty from Ford, which had since elapsed due to the mileage on the vehicle.
Now, you talked about the brake system in terms of the brake pedal within the car and its that it was operating correctly. Do you recall that testimony?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. It's foundational. The witness may answer.
Yes, I do.
Now, when a person activates that brake pedal, what is happening within the car?
There's actually a lot of things that happen within the car when you activate the brake pedal. When you press the brake pedal, it pushes on it's called a push rod, but it actually pulls on it. It pulls on the rod, which goes into the brake master cylinder, and that master cylinder is what pumps hydraulic fluid from the brake fluid reservoir to each independent wheel. On this vehicle, it's equipped with anti-lock brakes. It goes through an ABS modulator first. From there, it sends a signal out to stop or slow down, depending on the amount of pressure that you apply inside the cab. Depends on how much braking force you get at the wheel ends. In a very heavy brake application, as I had discussed before, where the vehicle is still trying to maintain momentum, the ABS system can override, and that's where you would get the vibration in the pedal that many of you may have felt before. That's your ABS system doing its job, not allowing the wheels to lock themselves up. What it's actually doing is pulsating the fluid in the vehicle.
And when you talk about brake pads, how do the brake pads, where are they located, and how do they relate to the pressing down of a brake pedal?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
So when the brake fluid reaches each wheel end, there's a set of calipers with pistons. And those pistons actually come out and they act like a clamp, and they squeeze the two brake pads together. They're located between the two sides of the piston and on the exterior of the brake rotor. And what that does is it creates a pinching motion, and that pinching motion slows the rotation of the disc down, which is the brake disc, which is attached to the wheel hub. And that's what slows the vehicle.
And just for the record, he was using his right hand to demonstrate kind of a squeezing motion. He had it, and I would describe his hand in a C motion, maybe 3 to 4 inches between the thumb and the fingers, and then pressing together a couple of inches.
Thank you. Are there any other components to the braking system in a car?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
There's a parking brake system in the vehicle.
But other than that, so you've covered every aspect of the braking system in this particular vehicle, is that correct?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled.
How is that speculative? Ugh.
Did you observe anything at all that would have prohibited this vehicle from stopping if the brake pedal had been applied?
No.
Look at his dumb look. Hey, look
Anything
at that.
that you observed or documented with it during or in your mechanical inspection report that would have contributed to the crashes that this car was involved in?
Objection, as an answer.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any cross-exams?
Yes, I do. I do.
During your inspection, did you see any bullet holes?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall?
Unless the bullet holes were in all 4 brakes.
Or were back up. Do you recall how many bullet holes you observed?
Who cares?
I do not recall a number.
Not
but
enough.
I knew there were more than one.
Because they were irrelevant.
The ones that you observed, do you recall where they were?
I do believe one might have exited through either the windshield or rear window, and one was in the side of the vehicle, if I remember correctly.
And did you find any shell casings?
No, I did not.
What little knowledge I do have about firearms, which is basic, very basic knowledge. Shell casings come out of semi-automatic, like 9mm or something like that, where you have like a magazine that you enter into the handle of the weapon, and then as the projectile comes out of the front, the casing will come and fly out of the top. Okay, and that would be near where the person operating that weapon is. It wouldn't fly with the projectile and end up in your car. So in other words, what did Darrell prove with that question? Did he prove that he didn't shoot his own car? Am I wrong? I think I'm right. I think I'm right because my basic knowledge of firearms tells me that the casing stays with where. That's why you would find when you're trying to find like where hunting accidents may happen, you find where the casings at where the person who may have shot the weapon. Then when you find the projectile, then you match them up. Oh my goodness, Darrell, you're not even a good a good gang member would know some of that. Of course, that being said, I did transport one person who I asked why do they move their hands when they're firing, and they think it makes the projectiles come out faster. It's not true.
And you said you did
So
the
they
inspection
could be
on December 6th.
That's correct.
Oh my God.
Do you know if the vehicle had been do you know if anyone attempted to start the vehicle in between that time of the crash and your inspection?
Not to my knowledge, no.
But you don't know for sure.
That's correct.
You made reference to the left rear tire being bigger than the other tires.
Yes.
Can you give a little bit more clarity on how that would affect the vehicle?
So one larger tire on the vehicle would obviously make the vehicle lean ever so slightly away from whichever side is larger than the other. In this case, the amount of difference between the two tires, it's about 1.5 inches in difference in radius. So in radius, you get half of that amount in height. So it would be about 3/4 of an inch difference in height. That amount of difference is not noticeable in a vehicle. The other thing that it would cause is premature tire wear from one side to the other over time, to where one tire might wear faster than the other. The suspension might not act correctly because it's not at the same ride height anymore. So eventually over time, those are things I would expect to potentially see from that. Each vehicle acts differently with different size tires on it. There's no one size fits all.
So different vehicles act differently to having a bigger fitting tire.
Yes.
You made reference to it to a vehicle leaning away from the side that's bigger.
Correct.
Would that in any way create a slight pull to the vehicle to either side?
In my experience, that small amount would not, no.
That's speculative.
And you made reference to the high beams.
High beams.
I don't remember exact.
Did you hear it? He said high beams. The high beams. High beams. High beams. I can't. Move on.
Believe what you
Moving on.
said, referring to the high beams.
High beams.
I guess you made reference to them being used at some point.
The high beams were activated when I did my inspection, meaning that when the headlights are on, they were in high beam mode. The selector stick was pressed forward for the high beams.
And why would a vehicle use high beams?
Usually a driver uses high beams to see better or to illuminate things better.
This is going to be a rabbit hole. Come on, Alice. Here we go. Here comes the goblin down a rabbit hole.
So that would
High
primarily
beams.
refer to if it was nighttime?
Correct.
Would you say, with your expertise, it wouldn't make sense for a vehicle to use high beams in the daytime?
There are limited uses for them in the daytime, yes.
And what are some of the uses from your knowledge?
Generally, the high beams shine brighter, so even with sunlight shining on them, other vehicles can see them. It's a thing that we use on the highway as law enforcement sometimes. We'll use the high beams at a crash scene. We'll turn the high beams on so oncoming traffic coming in during the daytime sees that brighter light from the vehicle. It's just a little bit of the thing to help oncoming vehicles see.
So here comes the narcissist tornado. So now he's going to say that's why he had his high beams on. And this is just speculation, but I can't. I'm trying to do it with a straight face. Darrell, you weren't trying to alert anybody of your presence. Your high beams were on by accident, probably because you were so pissed off. Okay, let's just leave it there. Stop lying.
So it would essentially be for identification purposes.
No.
Not so much for identification, no.
Well, what do you mean when you refer to
Visual.
for oncoming traffic to be able to?
See.
More for
See you.
visibility is what I mean.
Visibility.
So that it
There you
stands
go.
out
There's
to
the
the
word.
other traffic. It doesn't look like it belongs because the lights look very bright. It gets the other driver's attention. The same as the red and blue lights on the top of the car.
Okay,
Gets
so
them to notice that law enforcement is present.
Correct.
So I'm like
That's
law
what I meant
enforcement.
by ID purposes,
I
for them
mean-
to be able to.
I mean, I was being like law enforcement. What a goblin! What a
This-
troll! Oh my
see.
god!
Then yes.
Liar!
Were you able to inspect the entire engine?
I was not able to inspect the entire engine.
And what parts of the engine were you not able to inspect?
The only parts that I was unable to inspect would be down in the front by the belt pulleys area. I could see that the radiator was pushed into it, but I couldn't see what components had been damaged by that, as far as like water pump or anything like that. And I do not usually take the engines down, meaning I don't take them apart as part of my inspection anyways. My main under the hood inspection components would be non-engine related aside from the throttle.
You made reference to the water pump. Did you notice any water leaking?
Not
Yes,
anymore.
there was coolant that had leaked from the vehicle.
From the water pump?
I don't know where it actually had leaked from, but I
'Cause it
know
was
that
gone.
there was a lack of coolant in the vehicle. It could have come from a lot of various different places. It was no longer leaking when I saw it. It was empty.
So you didn't actually observe it leaking.
Correct.
After it was empty, it couldn't leak anymore. But I imagine if he were able to turn it over, which I guess he was able to do once. Oh, God, Darrell. None of this proves you're innocent.
So it'd be fair to say you don't know where the leaking came from.
Yes, that's what I just said.
That's correct.
Were you told that the vehicle was leaking?
No!
No, just
He doesn't need to be told it's leaking. He doesn't need to be told it's leaking. Sometime before, during, or after, when you crunched the whole thing in, the coolant became gone from the situation. Telling anybody, even somebody as dippy as me, that it had to have leaked out. It leaked out. Nobody came and siphoned it out. It didn't disappear like my granddaughter disappeared her shoes the other day. That was hilarious. Where are your shoes? They disappeared. Oh, yeah, that cost $30. Okay, bye.
as a low coolant level, meaning it leaked from someplace or it had never been filled properly.
So at that time, it'd be fair to say you weren't sure if it had been filled properly or if it was leaking.
Even if it wasn't filled properly, it had to have had some, because a car won't function without it. It will eventually just stop and blow everything out.
Either is possible.
But it'd be fair to say you didn't know for sure which of the two.
Correct.
What does that have to do with anything? That's the coolant, right? Are we talking about the coolant still?
You made reference to a loose ball joint. Can you give a little bit more clarity on exactly what is a ball joint?
So the ball joint is at the wheel end. When you turn your steering wheel in your vehicle, there's a shaft attached to the wheel, goes down to a rack and pinion system. The pinion is a round gear. The rack is a flat piece of metal with gear teeth on it. As you turn, it pushes the tie rods left and right. As you turn left and right, on the end of each of those tie rods is a ball and socket joint, much like the hip joint on a human being. It's a ball that fits inside of a socket, and what that does is it allows the wheel to turn left and right as it's being pushed by the tie rod without any binding or any issues in between.
That is clarity. I don't know anything about cars, so.
Yeah. So what you ask for?
And
So that's like me asking this guy questions. Like, what in the world would I benefit myself? Okay, so he explained the whole tie rod, which, you know, he lost me at the flat and the teeth and the. Okay, so when you turn your thing, there's mechanisms at the wheel called the tie rods and the tie rod ends and the joints and whatever it is, and there's whole mechanisms there that any mechanic can obviously rip me off about because I don't fully understand them. But when you turn the things, you know, that's the mechanism that works. Blah.
you said there was a loose ball joint?
Yes, the left front was loose.
The left front was loose.
And to what effect could that affect the vehicle?
The amount that it was loose, it would only wear more with more use. As those components start to wear down, they start to have a little play. The longer the vehicle is operated without proper repairs, the worse the play gets. The worse the play gets, then you can start having issues with improper tire wear and so on and so forth until it gets to the point that it actually separates. The ball and socket themselves will separate from each other.
And then what happens at that point?
If the ball and socket joints separate, you would
comes
lose
off.
steering at that wheel. The other wheel would still be able to steer.
From your inspection, can you tell roughly how long this loose or this ball joint was loose?
No.
I cannot tell exactly how long, no. I can say that it was loose before the crash occurred, just based on the fact that it was worn, not broken.
In other words, this would either have caused a problem with the steering, you would have had to pull over, or you probably would have been getting work done on the car, like brakes or whatever, and somebody would have noticed it and said, hey, you need to get this fixed. Or you would start complaining about the steering, and they'd say, you need to get this fixed. But you probably drive on this stuff with wear and tear all the time.
So with your expertise, would it be fair to say that needed to be taken care of?
Yes, that needed to be corrected.
Yes.
You made reference to the gas. The vehicle having difficulty starting. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And reference to the axles. You made reference to taking them off the vehicle?
The axle I do not take off of the vehicle at all.
What did you do in regards to the axle?
The axle ends, wheel ends, that's where the brake components are mounted. So I remove the wheel and tire from the actual axle end.
I think that's what I was referring to. I'm sorry if I misquoted. I know you made some reference to removing something. I just assumed you meant the axle. When you inspect the axle and remove, you said the wheel?
Yes.
What is being inspected at that point?
So when I remove the wheel and tire from the vehicle, I remove all four of them one at a time. And that's where I actually look at the brake components themselves, being the brake pads, the brake calipers, pistons inside the caliper, brake rotors, and then I get a better view of the tie rod that I was just speaking about because it's actually next to the wheel on the axle end of the vehicle.
You said the tire rod?
The tie rod, ball joint that was loose.
Oh, okay. So what? I think you just were clear about
If you
ball
don't
joint and tire rod.
know-
Is the difference between the two?
Yes, the ball joint is the joint itself, and it's on the end of the tie rod.
Did you notice anything wrong with the tie rod? The actual tie rod, not the ball joint?
No, there was nothing wrong with the tie rod.
Just one second. I'm just looking over these notes.
Go ahead.
Doesn't sound good. Maybe his tie rod bolt ends axle needs fixing. Ooh. He looks terrible. I should talk. I look terrible today. Ugh.
On page 9 of your report,
Have you repeated it?
and you did give some clarity to this. I'm just curious to know, on page 9, well, first of all, you wrote this report yourself, correct?
Yes.
Still doesn't understand that.
On page 9, the second sentence, I'm assuming you still have the exhibit 83.
Yes, sir.
It says, I noted a worn tie rod end on the left front wheel end. Was that in reference to the ball joint and not the tie rod?
Yes. They're one and the same. The tie rod end is a ball joint. It's two different ways to refer to the same component.
Okay, I was clarity. It doesn't say ball joint right here. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
And what is the high mount brake lamp?
The high mount brake lamp is on the back of the vehicle. You have the right brake light and turn signal, left brake light and turn signal, and then there's the third brake light that's like usually in the rear window or at the top of the back of the hatch of the vehicle. That's the high mount brake lamp.
Okay. And
What are you
it was
trying to do?
inoperable when you inspected it?
So,
That's correct. Both of those were inoperable.
is that why you
during
had your high
inspection.
beeps on?
So they didn't work.
Correct.
Inoperable, didn't work.
So it'd be fair to say if someone was viewing the vehicle from behind, they wouldn't be able to see because those were inoperable.
Yes, at the time of inspection, those lights did not work.
How does that help you? I couldn't have been a juror. There's
And
no
you
way.
also stated that it is unknown if they were working prior to the crash or damage during the crash. That'd be fair to say?
That's correct.
That you would know either way.
No, I would not have a way to tell when that light bulb went out.
No further questions.
Thank
Any
you.
redirect? Before you do that, I'm just gonna hold my jury stand for a second. Go ahead. right, thank you. Be seated. Go ahead.
So you testified on cross-examination that the right and high mount brake lamp were inoperable. Do you recall that?
Yes.
How about the left brake lamp? Was that operable or inoperable?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
The left stop lamp was working.
Now, sir, just going back again to this ball joint, you stated that, I guess, was your testimony on cross-examination that unless the ball and socket is separated, you can still safely operate that vehicle?
Objection. Mischaracterizes what was said.
Based on the form of the question, I'll allow the witness to answer.
Yes.
And the ball and the socket on this vehicle, were they separated?
They were not.
Now, your inability to fully inspect the engine, I want to direct you to that area of the vehicle. Does the engine control acceleration?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No, it requires driver input.
Does the engine control braking?
No, it does not.
Does the engine control steering?
Objection. What is the relevancy?
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No, it does not.
Does the engine control gear shifting?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
It does not.
Ha ha ha.
Finally, sir, you had talked about actually coolant or some type of water. I wasn't sure if you're talking about the water pump or the radiator. Do you know what was leaking, if anything?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Asked and answered. Asked and answered.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yeah, it's
redirect.
redirect. You fool.
Yes, so water pump, water coolant, it's all interchangeable as far as the cooling system for the engine goes. And the coolant system was low at the time of inspection and had been leaking, but from where, I do not know.
And again, does that control the steering,
No,
the braking,
no,
the acceleration?
no.
Finally, sir, you had talked about on cross-examination the presence of the high beams being on during the daylight. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes,
Specifically, you
looking
had
at 'em.
indicated that sometimes the state patrol uses their high beams during the day. What was that for?
Objection. That was answered.
Overruled. The witness may answer. Redirect.
to increase visibility.
Is that of any assistance if a vehicle is coming up behind people?
Objection. Speculative.
Based on his training and experience, I will allow him to answer.
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
You may step down.
Bam! Look at him! Look at him! Look at him! He knows he was just crushed. Crushed. She took every point he even attempted to make a small dent in. If you don't know a lot about cars and you're on the jury and something's leaking out, maybe you do think that that affects the whole of the car. She made it very clear that whatever leaked out of that thing, the coolant, whatever it was, when it leaked out, how it leaked out, where it leaked out, made no difference on accelerating, decelerating, braking, or any other thing that would have mitigated what he did. Anything. Oh my gosh. Slam and dunk. She is like the quiet stealth zinger. Oh. Let's wrap this up.
I will take that. Thank you, sir. And
Oh, look at
once
it. Now
the
he's going to
witness
laugh about it.
Passes. I'll excuse the jury for an afternoon break. It's just about 3:06. We'll take about 15 minutes. I'll rise for the jury.
Because he thinks this is all some sort of conspiracy against big bad Darrell. Oh man. Oh man. Face diaper. Oh man. Bam.
You can be seated.
I'm feeling something.
Mr. Brooks, I know the last thing you said, I heard you say that's hilarious. What were you referring to?
I was referring to, like, are you serious? Some of the same things that I ask on
Axe. Thug.
when it's my time to question the witness can be overruled. But when the same thing is done and I object, it's nothing. It's just thrown.
Those are called the rules of evidence. The rules of evidence. She gave you her own personal book that documents the current rules of evidence. It would explain things that I've picked up, because I'm no attorney, like you can ask foundational questions, but not leading questions when it's your witness and you're directly asking the questions. But the person cross-examining can ask leading questions. The redirect can clarify some of the things that were asked on the cross-examination. So they can ask them again and they can clarify them again. Those are called rules. Since Darrell has no concept of rules, he's having a really hard time assimilating this. I say let's see about this.
Just thrown to the side. I
It's
just
thrown to the
think that's
side.
funny.
Well,
I
sir,
really
I
do.
don't find it funny, number one. Number two,
You're not in my position either.
The court rules on the objections at the time that the objections are made. I know, and I wanted to address this briefly. You can have a seat. You had questioned during the testimony of this witness Exhibit 83, because I believe what you were saying is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, the copy of the report you have does not have an exhibit sticker on it.
It don't.
It don't.
Right. And
It
You want to see it?
You wanna see?
I don't doubt that your copy does not have an exhibit sticker,
Let's see my
because
doodles.
at the time the report was provided to you, and I'll have the state correct me if I'm wrong on this, it would have been provided through the course of discovery. I'd also note that on April, I believe 22nd of 2022, the state filed a notice of expert naming Inspector Ryan Schultz as an expert witness, and indicated that he would testify consistent with his report. And then I directed your attention to the statutes in the rules of evidence dealing with expert testimony, specifically starting at 907.02 through 907.07. That is why I didn't stop during the testimony to have a discussion outside the presence of the jury, because at that point the objection to not having an exhibit sticker on your report is not would not prevent the court from receiving the exhibit once the proper foundation was laid, which in my opinion it was. And the fact that your document didn't have that specific exhibit sticker doesn't diminish the fact that I know from your cross-examination, you were referring to the report. At times you referred to it by page number. It was clear from your questioning that you had reviewed it. I would just note two examples. You asked some questions regarding visibility and the impact of the high beams. That was one example. And then secondly, questioning him about the ball joint and whether it needed attention and what that would mean. And so I just wanted to make
that didn't come from the report, Your Honor. The only
record
thing
of
that
that.
came from the report was from page 9,
Okay.
when I was trying to get clarity about why it said worn tire.
So you just proved her point. You were able to utilize the report. You had the report.
Tie rod.
Tyrod.
Oh, and you actually questioned the
And-
witness about
There
the
you go.
different tire and what that would mean. So I thought three good areas of cross-examination that you covered. As far as the other issues I think that you might have when there's redirect, I'm not going to explain what redirect is, sir, but again, for my position, there's direct examination, there's cross-examination. The state or any witness, any party that calls a witness always has the opportunity to ask the direct exam questions and then redirect based upon what's asked during cross-examination. Sometimes that does mean there's some repetition, but I didn't see anything.
Petulant. Look at him be petulant. Ugh. Staring. What are you staring at, Darrell?
Through the redirect of
What are you
this
staring at?
witness that I thought was improper. So I just wanted to make a record of that. I am going to caution you, sir.
Do you understand what I was saying?
You are,
No.
but you, during multiple times during the questioning of that witness, you were mumbling under your breath. You say disparaging remarks toward the court, toward the witness, or toward the process.
So if it was disparaging, what did I say?
Sir,
Because I
you
don't-
say things like it's not fair, or you make noises that suggest like you're disgusted with the ruling that is made.
So you're assuming what I mean by that, and when did I say
Mr.
it
Brooks,
wasn't
I'm
fair?
just making a record because
Yeah, but
it's
you're making
important
an
that
incorrect record.
it's important that you demonstrate courtesy and decorum through these proceedings, and that you give respect to the witnesses who are testifying in the process.
Did the witness feel disrespected? Did the witness say anything about feeling
Brooks,
disrespected?
I'm not going to engage in this
'Cause I don't think he
back
did.
and forth with you because, first of all, it's a mischaracterization of my observations, number one, and
Yeah,
number
but
two,
your
it's my
observations are
job.
incorrect.
It's
If
my
it-
job to ensure that under 90611 that there's the effective presentation, and I'll just refer you to that once again. I'll read it into the
You don't,
record.
you don't need to read it.
Under
you don't need to read
906
it. Just make sure that you make a correct
the judge shall exercise
record.
reasonable
Don't lie on the
control over the mode and order of interrogating witnesses and presenting evidence
it's
so
gonna
as
get
to do
addressed
all of
every
the
time.
following. Make the interrogation and presentation
Every time.
effective for the ascertainment
Every
of
time.
truth.
Every time.
Avoid needless consumption of time.
My
Protect
semantics.
witnesses from harassment or undue embarrassment. Sub 2 talks about the scope of cross-examination. Sub 3 talks about leading questions, and when leading questions may be used to develop the witness's testimony. So with that, we'll take our break. I'll start the 15 minutes. It's 3:13. We are in recess. Thank you. Go ahead.
I did actually take note of when the court overruled one of Mr. Brooks' objections. His
don't
response
consent to being
was,
called that name,
"Stop
Your Honor."
trying to be slick."
Yeah, I did say that.
So,
All right.
just for the record, I thought that was very disrespectful.
Thank you. I would agree.
Judge, can we discuss scheduling at some point as well, either now or on the
When we
return?
come back.
Why wasn't that addressed right when it happened?
Honestly, Mr. Brooks, I'm really trying hard
Because
not to
that's
highlight
the
your
definition of
misconduct
trying to be slick.
during the trial. And
Because she's trying not to point out when you act like an idiot. Wish my kids would do that with me.
trying my best here to
I don't see
frankly
that.
minimize
I don't
pointing
see
those
it.
things out to the jury and instead
I
pointing
don't
them
see
out outside the presence of the jury. You may have noticed I've even started to say I'd remind
He's
the
losing
jurors
it.
that
He's
the
lost
comments
it.
of the parties or the attorneys are not evidence, so as to cast a broad brush and not simply highlight your
I
conduct.
haven't noticed anything, and I don't
But all right, we're in
refer to
recess.
what
Thank you.
conduct
It's
you referring
3:14.
to.
What conduct are you referring
If you're
to?
gonna be biased, then somebody.
What conduct are you referring to? I don't understand. I don't understand. What a goblin. Oh my gosh. Okay, like, subscribe, comment, please comment. I love the comments. Oh god. Oh my goodness. All right, I will see you later. Bye.